Well, it finally happened. We are here in the Occult Crescent. It is the exploratory zone, adventuring foray instance. I don't know. Everybody calls these things something different, but it's the thing for Dawntrail. It's like Bozja. It's like Eureka, but not quite. It's in between the two. And I have a feeling we are going to spend a lot of time here. So let's roam around and I'll talk about the experience so far, while also kind of showing off a little bit of what this place has got. Look at that, a critical engagement is up. Ooh, treasure. Magic prism. So, I've been doing a lot of Occult Crescent grinding the past few days. I unlocked it on stream and I've been kind of working my way through it very slowly past couple days. I haven't been grinding sleeplessly like some people have, so I only recently got knowledge level 20, which is the cap. Doesn't actually take as long as you might think. It's pretty quick to level to 20. But yeah, I haven't finished the relic yet. I've only got 2 of my phantom jobs at max level, so I'm still kind of in the early stages of this thing. I haven't been to the Forked Tower yet because I haven't found a group brave enough to go in, but I look forward to that. So yeah, for anyone familiar with the game, Occult Crescent so far is kind of, it's closer to Eureka, but it's in between Eureka and Bozja. And for anybody not familiar that has no idea what I'm talking about, basically this is a separate instance, overworld instance of the game that has kind of different combat rule sets. It's got like a separate leveling system, different job actions, and weird modifiers, and it's almost like a game within a game. And so instead of making the actual overworld interesting, complex, and engaging for each expansion, in Final Fantasy XIV, they split it off into a separate, smaller overworld that doesn't really interact with the rest of the game. And so that's what this is. We didn't get one in Endwalker. A lot of people were upset by that, but we do have one now in Dawntrail, and I will say it's decently, it's reasonably good. I'm enjoying it so far. My biggest complaint still is I just think it should come out sooner. It's crazy that we have to wait 9 months after the expansion to get the major long-term endgame thing, because for 9 months there's been really nothing else to do other than raid. But yeah, we finally got this, and I am relatively pleased with it. Hey, where the heck is Celine these days? Celine. But yeah, I kind of want to just make clear that I have been enjoying this content, and I intend to spend a lot of time here, and I think that it will be fun time that I do spend here. I need to get that out of the way because I'm about to begin a list of complaints. So let's talk about the less good things. It's kind of hard to explain. I haven't been able to decide on quite what the right word is for this place, but let's actually put that aside for a moment. Let's talk about achievements. That's more interesting, right? That's what we came here for. So this will actually kind of feed into what I'm talking about anyway, but the achievements for the Occult Crescent so far, I've actually got a decent few of them, mostly freebies, just stuff that you kind of get for playing the game normally without, doing anything additional or difficult. I'm dead. This is the final boss of user interface. Oh yeah, essentially what they did was take all of the achievements from the Bozja and Southern Front and copy and paste them, with little exception. It's almost exactly just the Southern Front achievements again, with very little that's unique to the island itself. There's a couple things, but most of it really is just Bozja achievements. It's the, do 500 skirmishes, get 500 CEs, all that type of thing. The only thing really new they added was these treasure hunting achievements, which there is treasure hunting in this like there was in Eureka, but the key difference here is that there are 3 different types of treasure hunting. So there are treasure chests that you can just find randomly in Overworld, like the one that I did a moment ago. There are treasure chests that you can be led to by magic pot dudes. Those are essentially the magic bunnies from Eureka. They work the same way. And then there are magical carrot treasures. You stumble upon a magic carrot out in the world, and then that initiates a happy bunny treasure hunt. Somehow there's a special item you need that activates it, but those seemingly are more rare and harder to do, and so needing 1,000 of those is going to actually take quite a while. Seemingly. I haven't really fully figured out that mechanic yet, and I haven't heard much from people who have. So yeah, the treasure hunting achievements are actually the most painstaking ones. It's really hard to focus on this with the menu up. There's a seizure simulator. Oh god, no. I'm dead again. That means I don't have to pay attention. So, we got our usual gamers, 500 reses. There's mastering all of your phantom jobs. And then the Forked Tower, which is the raid here, the Baldessian Arsenal equivalent, surprisingly goes up to 100 clears for its highest level achievement. Previously, Bozja had the record for that type of achievement, wherein, he had to do all the raids 50 times. But Forked Tower, you got to do 100 to get the title, which seems like a lot, but again, I haven't seen it yet, I haven't done it yet, so I don't know how painstaking that's actually going to be, and I think it will definitely get easier over time, especially considering they're going to be adding more phantom jobs and thus more of these mastery levels, which give you a passive damage buff. But yeah, for the most part, the achievements are just kind of copy and pasted from Bozja, just with the addition of the phantom jobs and now the treasure hunting achievements. What we don't have here are the duels. One of the most interesting parts about Bozja, they did not bring those back. So yeah, there's no duel equivalent here. Ooh, silver coffer. I got a shirt, a hairstyle, and some glasses. That's that new hairstyle. Apparently it's not hard to get, so it isn't worth very much. Something else worth noting, if you get those silver coffers just out in the world randomly, they actually contain a chance to drop the rare mounts from Bozja. So there's a rare dinosaur mount that drops from the Dalriata that used to be worth about 30 mil because it was a really uncommon drop and not that many people run the Dalriata. There used to be the Golden Gabriel mount from Delibrum, which was a rare drop, and not that many people run Delibrum, and so that was also worth several million gil. Both of those are just in silver coffers here that you find all over the place, and so they have tanked in value. More than 90% of their value eliminated overnight, which was kind of crazy. All the Eureka mounts are in here. I don't think we've seen the full extent of the drop table yet, but yeah, it seems like they took a lot of the rare items from the previous adventuring forays and just shoved them into the chests here, and so essentially anything that you could have gotten from previous zones for tons of money has pretty much been wiped out. Other than, I don't think the rare Eureka drops are in here, the Pagos drops, because those are like kind of specific to that zone. So like you're probably not gonna see like Cassie earrings or anything like that, but I don't know yet. There are a lot of Shadowbringers era glams that are in the boxes that are just, again, getting a lot of their value erased, but well, it is what it is, I guess. Not really much else to say about it than that. Anyways, on the topic of achievements, there are of course relics here, and a lot of people have been complaining about this, but the first step of the relic is a one-time step where you have to collect 18 demi-atmas, and my goodness, do they take kind of a while to get. And so to get all these relic achievements, you need to get all your demi-atmas. You need 3 of each of the demi-atmas, and there are 6 different ones. As you can see, I've got 7 here in my inventory, so I am 7 out of 18. Not doing too badly, considering I've only been here for 3 days, maybe like 20 something hours. But yeah, it's, first time in a while we've had a major grind at the beginning of the relic. Bozja, even first step was tomestones, and then it was the multicolored memories, which were relatively quick. And so this is a pretty big upfront grind. Again, 20 hours spent here. I've got 7 of these, so I'm like a little more than a third of the way in. We could reasonably assume this is going to be a 50-60 hour grind to get all of them at the current rate that I'm going at. Obviously, it's going to depend on your luck because it is just a low chance RNG drop. Every time you do a skirmish or a fate here, you get a small chance of getting one of these atmas depending on what zone you're in on the island map. And you can also grind Dawntrail fates for them, but the drop rate on those is substantially lower from what I've been hearing. And so a lot of people upset about that. I say screw them. I'm actually pretty happy with it. I've been wanting a relic grind like this for a long time, especially after Endwalker with the Manderville relics being a joke. This is exactly what I want out of a relic grind. My only complaint with it is that if you do all that work, you're rewarded with a relic that is the same eye level as the extreme raid weapon, which is very easy to get. And so I don't know why there seems to be such an aversion at Square Enix to making relics even remotely useful until the very last patch of the expansion, but well, they're a bit underwhelming in terms of their scaling. And so by the time you get your relic, you spend 60 hours grinding atmas, and then you gotta grind tomestones after that. You're rewarded with a weapon that's 20 eye levels lower than the best in slot, and so that seems like an oversight, even though it's intentional. It's very annoying. I understand not wanting the relic to be stronger than the Savage Raid weapon, that's fine. But it should be stronger than the Extreme weapon. I don't see any reason that the relic can't be like 755 eye level, or maybe even 760 eye level, or something like that. But 745 means that it's instantly outdated the moment you get it. It's already weaker than like 3 other available weapons, some of which are easier to obtain. And I mean, this game has really never been good about making gear feel impactful, but it is kind of silly, in my opinion, that they have such extensive quests around getting relics. In really every expansion has had an extensive relic quest other than Endwalker, but the relic that you get is almost always worse than other things that are available. And again, it's only in the very last patch of the expansion that it's ever considered best in slot, other than the small asterisk of level syncing old ultimates because of the way substats work. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the relic grind. It should keep me busy for a little while. But anyways, let's talk about the island as a whole, the content as a whole, and how I feel about it. So, as I said a few moments ago, I've been kind of struggling to figure out the right word to use for this, the right way to describe it, because the word soulless feels too harsh. I need a word that's less harsh than soulless, but with a similar meaning. So maybe heartless, maybe uninspired. See, all of those sound really harsh. Again, I have been enjoying the content, but my biggest complaint so far is that it doesn't really do anything new at all. And so the only aspect of it that could be really considered remotely new is just the Phantom Job system, which is a different mutation on the lost actions that were already present in Bozja and Eureka. And so now, instead of having lost actions or logograms that you have to discover and then appraise and, then apply, instead of having customizable loadouts and a holster like you did in Bozja, you've got Phantom Jobs, which are pretty straightforward. You pick a job and then it has an amount of phantom actions specific to that job, and then when you get the job to max level, you have all the actions available, then you just use them. And that's it. And so it's similar to how lost actions work. It's just, new, fancy, wacky, overpowered job abilities. But in this case, there are specific pre-made loadouts that you can use tailored to, whatever these jobs are. Each job is a different loadout. You pick one, and then that's what you get. You get whatever abilities it has. And so while it still has the fun factor of being able to use these ridiculous overpowered builds, it's kind of similar to the way the PvP jobs are built, I would say. But it doesn't have the customizability that Bozja and Eureka both had. And that would allow you to have any number of custom loadouts. You could choose what you wanted to do. And so I could run something as a healer that would make my damage stronger, make my healing weaker, and then apply damage dealing actions, or apply mobility actions, or apply more healing actions. You could customize your build in ways that were fun and interesting. And so I really like those systems both a lot more than this one. There is the one benefit to this system, which is you have to have a phantom job in order to be in here. Like, you're always going to be given some loadout with some actions, which means that even goobers that aren't willing to engage with the system, that aren't willing to, really learn much about it or figure out good custom loadouts, will always have a set of actions just available to them that they can use because they have to do that. And so it does mitigate the problem that Bozja kind of had, which was people coming in without essences and therefore being severely underpowered, since the zone was designed around people using them. And so I kind of get it, but I do think it's a less interesting system than what we had previously, just because it's removed all that customization that we once had. And now for the world itself. So the map is gorgeous, a very, very pretty zone. It's got a lot of interesting corners to it. It combines several different types of architecture in an interesting way, and so it feels like a pretty cool overworld zone with different interesting places to explore. The trouble is, they kind of leaned more toward Bozja rather than Eureka in terms of how the events work, and so there is a constant stream of fate events and critical encounters, and you just run between them. And so all you do is run to the nearest fate event, kill it, and then as soon as a CE spawns, you run to that, and then you kill it. And once that's done, you go to another fate, and then you go to another CE. And so it's a constant stream of boss fights. That's the other thing worth noting. All of the fate events in here, all of the CEs, they're just boss fights. So in Bozja, you had skirmishes of all types. Sometimes you would be collecting salvage. Sometimes you would be just fighting an endless swarm of enemies. Sometimes you'd be fighting a specific number of enemies, or just different weird things like that, or like a collection of different beasts. But here on Occult Crescent, every single fate event is a boss fight. Every single one. And so like there's no variety to how the fate events work. The only variety is just in what mechanics the bosses have, and they are more in depth than you would normally get for fate bosses. And so essentially every fight here is equivalent to a dungeon boss fight. They have that level of mechanics, so they usually have 2 or 3 different things that they'll do, and then they just repeat them after a while. But yeah, I mean, it's just you're constantly running from boss to boss to boss to boss to boss, and the only reason to fight enemies on the overworld is for farming gold pieces, because they're the only things that drop gold, whereas silver you get from the fates and the CEs. Experience is fastest from fates and CEs, and demi-atmas only drop from fates and CEs. And so almost everything here is gotten from just riding this constant train from fate to CE to fate to CE. So it's just non-stop boss fights. And then if you happen to need gold, your best way to get it is by using the chain bonus. So like fighting chains of normal enemies, and you can do that solo or in a group. Obviously with a well-coordinated group, the rate that you get gold is going to be a lot higher because you'll be able to kill things more efficiently, but you could still do it pretty well on your own. I've heard people have been reporting up to 1,000 gold per hour just doing it solo. I've been speculating you could probably do several thousand an hour if you have a really good coordinated team, just using really optimal lost actions, or phantom actions. But yeah, there's only a handful of things you need gold for, actually. One of which is the final upgrade tier for the armor here, which is pretty important if you're planning to do a lot of the content, and so it's definitely worth getting. But almost everything else that's bought with gold, you can also get with silver, or it's optional. And so essentially what I'm getting at is the primary way to play this content is constantly rushing bosses. It's a non-stop boss rush with no downtime. And so it kind of gets that fast pace that Bozja has, but without the same level of charm. And so you're constantly moving and fighting things, but it just doesn't have the same amount of depth to it. But yeah, by comparison, Eureka, for example, the NMs, which were the fate events, the notorious monsters, didn't spawn that often. They had long cooldowns, and in order to spawn them, you had to kill large amounts of specific monsters. And so a majority of your leveling, oh god, was actually done by just grouping up with people and farming normal monsters in the overworld. And so you were always looking for your best leveling spot. What's the best enemy I can fight against? And you had time to really hang out in an area for a while and kind of dwell on it and get to know it, get to enjoy it. So I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of that map, just because there are so many parts of it that I have fond memories of kind of hanging out in and leveling up. That doesn't really happen here. There's not really any incentive to do that other than, again, farming gold, because the knowledge level, the knowledge XP, which is your level equivalent, doesn't really mean anything. And this is something that I thought was particularly strange, but oh, I got run over, I'm dead. But yeah, in Eureka, the enemies have wide sight cones. They spot you very easily if you're lower level than them, and the higher level ones will kill you very quickly if they do spot you. And so, based on your level, you kind of have zones that you can and can't go into. And the NMs, the fate events in Eureka, don't scale to your level, and so you need to be within 3 levels of it in order to actually get the reward from it. And so it creates a sense of progression where there's parts of the map that have the higher level fates, that have the higher level monsters, and you go more into those parts as you level up. And so you kind of start out on the beach, and the stronger you get, the more inland you go. Eventually you end up in the, deep in the caves where all the strong and scary things are at. And Bozja has a similar effect where it's kind of got the 3-in-1 zones where parts of the map are walled off and you have to unlock them by getting to a higher level to complete the next quest to open the gate. And so you can't just immediately access the whole map, whereas here in Occult Crescent, as soon as you get here, you can go anywhere you want, you can attune every aetherite, there are no walls on anything. And all of the CEs and all of the fate events scale to your level. And so at level 1, you can go to whatever the scariest looking monster is in the zone and you can fight it. And the only thing that your knowledge level affects is how well you're able to fight the overworld monsters, which aren't very perceptive. It's really easy to sneak around them. And so all they are is a minor obstacle on your way to the next CE. And then the CEs give you so much knowledge that you hit knowledge level 20 pretty quickly anyway. And then the overworld mobs aren't even an inconvenience anymore. And so it feels like the knowledge levels don't really mean anything. They don't really feel impactful. They don't really matter. And so the only things they affect are gold farming, and you need to be max knowledge level to enter the Forked Tower. So that's it. Those are the only two places where the knowledge level matters. And your phantom level for your phantom job only determines which actions you're able to use. It also doesn't impact what you're able to fight or where you're able to go. And so it's kind of unfortunate. It makes the zone feel a lot smaller since you can go everywhere right from the get-go. You don't need to build strength to get around, and so your travel is not gated in any way, which is convenient, but I find it less compelling because, again, I can crawl into the deepest depths of the darkest caves here, and ultimately, as long as I know how to circle around enemies to not be in their line of sight, nothing bad will ever happen to me. And so it doesn't have that same mystique where Eureka, you're crawling around a zone you don't belong in, and you feel like you're constantly in danger. You feel your life is being threatened constantly, and so you really know it when you're out of place. And even at max level in Eureka, there's monsters that you kind of want to avoid if you're traveling alone. That effect here is never replicated here. Another thing they did, interesting choice, they removed the cooldown on the return button, and so the CEs run a little bit differently. In Bozja, you would queue for it, and then as soon as it was ready, if you got accepted into the queue, you would just press engage and it would teleport you to the CE automatically. That doesn't happen here. You need to be at the site of the CE. I just got Wind Caller. Oh my god. GG cluster farming. That's gone too now. But yeah, you need to be at the site of the CE to actually participate in the Occult Crescent. And so what you do is every time a new CE spawns, you return home and then you just teleport to the nearest Aetherite. And then for the CEs, since you need to be in the zone, in the circle of the CE in order to participate, or you get locked out of it, what that means is essentially when a CE spawns, you've only got 3 minutes to get there. You run to that spot and you stand in the circle and wait for it to begin. And so I think the idea was they wanted to make it so that people weren't just waiting at the camp for the CEs to spawn and then teleporting directly to them and then teleporting back to camp. Because that would happen at Bozja. And so you'd have, a few people that were out actually playing the game, and then you'd have a lot of people that were just kind of waiting for something to spawn. The trouble with this system is it feels a little bit lackluster when you're having to run all the way to the CE in order to participate, and then you just wait for it to begin. And so you can't really multitask the same way, whereas with Bozja, you would queue for a CE and you could continue doing skirmishes while you waited, and then at the last second you engage the CE. So I think this system here is better in some ways, worse in others. But yeah, that's probably my biggest criticism of it, is just that it feels uninspired, especially compared to Bozja, which I feel like Bozja took the Eureka formula and really added a lot to it. It expanded on it a lot. It had a lot of interesting ideas, but more importantly, it had a lot of passion behind it. For all of its flaws, I think that Bozja showed a lot of passion in its development, and like the easiest example of that is just the sheer amount of story. Every single aspect of Bozja was saturated in story, and so, every skirmish had a part in the plot, and there were recurring heroes and recurring villains that would appear in each skirmish, and the skirmishes would chain together and then lead into CEs, which would chain together and then lead into duels, and all of that was part of the lore, and it would give you context for the characters and the interactions they had and build their personalities out, and that helped get more invested in the conflict. It actually felt like an active war zone where you were fighting alongside your heroes against your villains, and it was a little bit G.I. Joe in its tone at times, but it was fun. It gave something more to be invested in, and it made it all more intriguing. Every now and then you'd notice another piece of dialogue that you'd missed before, just a little thing like that. You realize, oh, I didn't notice that, hey, this character is present at this fate event, or look who's in the background of this fate event, it's that other guy, and like that just kind of made it feel more alive, whereas all of the fates here are just big scary monsters. And the descriptions of the fates just say, hey, it's a big scary monster, kill it or it kills you. And the CEs are mostly the same, and the lore of the place is kind of scant. We're here on a mystery island trying to solve the mystery of the mystery island. And we get a little bit of info about why the island exists, and perhaps who created it, and perhaps why. But it's not nearly as alive as something like Bozja was. The lore is much closer to what we had in Eureka, which, for everything I like about Eureka, the lore was kind of bare bones. It was like not really that deep. But ultimately, that's the easiest way to kind of sum up my negative sentiments for this place, is just that it doesn't feel like it has the same level of passion as previous iterations of this type of content did. There are a lot of things in Dawntrail where I kind of get the impression that they did them just out of obligation, just because people were asking for them. You know, we've got to have another adventuring foray, we've got to have another crafting instance, we've got to have an epic MSQ that ends with a dungeon that explores the memories of our complicated villain who's actually misunderstood. And so yeah, I think there's a handful of interesting ideas here, but it does by and large feel like some of it's just phoned in, because it doesn't do anything that previous instances haven't done, and most of those things honestly have been done better by previous instances. So there's a few things that are refined here that are improved upon, but for the most part it's just a mixture of decent ideas from Bozja and from Eureka. I also feel like not having an in-instance raid Castrum style is kind of a questionable idea. They did Forked Tower instead. I can't really judge Forked Tower yet. I haven't seen it. I look forward to exploring it, but I'm just not there yet. Actually, the weather's up. Maybe after this we could scam some people into going in. But another thing I really liked about Bozja was the way they had the raids built into the instances. And so with the Castrum Lacus and the Dalriata, they would just kind of spawn every hour. Oh, thank goodness I could sure cast that. But yeah, you know, Castrum, Lacus, Dalriata, they would just spawn once an hour, and you could just queue up for it. You could just participate. You didn't have to really plan anything. You didn't have to schedule anything. It was just, hey, go have fun, idiot. And I kind of liked that. It was a bit of a relaxing grind because the stakes were low. Forked Tower, from what I'm hearing, it's a little harder than Baldessian Arsenal, and so it seems like it's going to be the type of thing that you probably need some level of coordination for. I don't know yet if you're going to be able to just go in-game without outside communication and make it work. We'll have to wait and see. But again, I mean, it's not the same as just pressing the Q button and waiting 5 minutes until Castrum Lacus begins, and so it more so fills the niche of Delibrum Savage or Baldessian Arsenal. And so essentially what that means is there's no equivalent to Castrum Lacus, there's no equivalent to Delibrum. They've just eliminated that type of content, and with no dual equivalent either, I kind of feel like we've cut more content than we've added. So all of this is my roundabout way of saying, yes, I have been enjoying this, but with caveats. It's still new enough that the novelty is going to last me a while, because I love this style of content, and so I'm going to enjoy it for a long time. But I do think that in the long run, by the time I'm, kind of done with it, by the time I've got everything grinded out, I feel that this is going to be, I don't know, it'll depend on a lot on what Forked Tower is like. It's going to depend a lot on what the second zone is like. By the end of the expansion, I'll be able to really weigh in. But so far, my early impressions are that I don't think I'm going to end up liking this more than either Eureka or Bozja. I think those both have something special about them that this doesn't really replicate, since it's just kind of an in-between of the two while adding very little. That's the easiest way to sum it up. But anyways, what do you guys think so far? I've been kind of just rambling this whole time. What do you guys think so far? Are you enjoying Occult Crescent? Have you even tried it yet? Do you like this kind of content at all? How would you compare it to Bozja and Eureka? That's going to be our comment question. How would you rank? And I know it's too early to say with certainty because we only just got this content on Tuesday, so this is brand new. We don't have the level of depth of experience, and also the content's not even finished yet. But for early impressions, how would you rank this compared to Bozja and Eureka? Give me a 1, 2, 3 breakdown, because for me it's probably, honestly, I'd say Bozja number 1, Eureka number 2, Occult Crescent number 3. Even though I like the vibe of Eureka more than the vibe of Bozja, I just feel like Bozja is more complete, just in the level of like things going on with it, the depth that it has, and again, the story kind of elevates it a little bit for me as well, even though I think the writing is kind of clunky at times. For a long time I was team Eureka number 1, but like I think in hindsight I really enjoyed Bozja more. Part of it was the duels, the additional raids that it had. Just I think there was more fun there for me. Although I do love the chill vibe that Eureka has, that chill classic style of gameplay. But yeah, for me it's gonna be Bozja, then Eureka, then Occult Crescent. That's my current rankings, but again, we don't have the whole crescent. It's not complete yet, and so that may change. Let me know what yours are, though. I want to see them. Maybe we can aggregate this and average it out, just see what what my comment section thinks. I mean, a lot of people watching are achievement hunters, so the perspective will be a little bit skewed by that.